Hello, welcome to the Viewpoint. I am Mamadou Mboj. Today, the Viewpoint has come to the theatre, not to watch a play, but to talk about plays. And we did the watching on Friday, 25th of June, of the production of Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka's The Lion and the Jewel. This was part of the theatre's initiative. It's Theatre for Education initiative to help students preparing for their WAS exams get more familiar, have a deeper, more intimate perhaps feel of the books, the texts that they'll be covering in their exams. So today we're going to talk about plays. What are they? How are they produced? How vibrant or dormant, for that matter, is theatre in this country? And we'll narrow our discussions even further to the work of a single person, playwright, producer, director, many things besides, including an administrator, having worked with international experience, mind you, having worked in Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Kenya, the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, and then finally returned to form the Ebunjan Theatre. We are really happy that we've been allowed to come and film this week's The Viewpoint here with our host, Janet Bajani Young.
Thank you. I didn't realize you know so much about me.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm really absolutely beautiful facade. I mean, the lawn, beautifully manicured, and the lined, wonderful trees providing much needed respite in the giving sun out there. So wonderful place to have our discussions today. So, on Friday, about 2 hours production of The Lion and the Jewel. Fantastic, gripping for me throughout. I wonder, and it's got so many different features, then one wonders, how long did it take you to put all of that
together? I saw you enjoying it from upstairs. It took me maybe 6 weeks. 6 weeks to 2 months, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
so
yes.
Getting all the different parts. So what happens? Do you do your own adaptations? Because you have to.
You have to. No, what the thing is, for example, I pick up a play and I decide, after I read several plays at a given time, depending on, well, for this one it was much easier. I had to just look at the text that they were asking the children to study, and I decided, oh, I'll try Lion and the Jewel. But many a time I thought that's a wrong choice. It demands too much, you know, too many things. Because it goes into detail, and on stage, if he was a director, I think some of those things he would not have added them to the play. But he's a playwright, he's a writer, you know, and so so many things, you know. So then I look at the characters, you know, does it grip me? I mean, do they grip me? Am I interested in them enough to portray them on stage? And then I look at the theme. I mean, will this theme be the sort of theme that Gambians would think of, or would they be interested in that theme? And then I think, well, yes. Would I have an audience? That's also another aspect you have to think about, because you might do a play and people don't show up because they just don't like what the theme is all about. And the setting, you have to think of the setting. So can I do that setting in my theater? That's another, because there are different types of theater. Or would that be better done outdoors? You know, I think of all those things. And I think, well, of the talent, who will be able to play this particular role? You know, I think of all those things, and then finally I decide I'll do it. Then sometimes I think, this is an expensive production. Will I be able to put it through? Will I be able to afford it? Will people pay to come and see this production? Will I be able to get funding from individuals? You know, all those things I think of before I do it.
But I wonder, is there a kind of crusading energy, not quite an ideology, but maybe one has a certain vision of things, how things should go? For instance, imagine this country now in our transitional phase, as they call it, yes, after this 22 years of destruction. So you look at the society, do you get that political crusading energy?
As think, yes, that's what I just said. How often you relate it, you read the play, because somebody else's play is Nigerian, I'm Gambian. We don't have the same societies, we don't have the same beliefs, we don't dress the same, so it's very different. And then I have to think now, how can Gambians relate to the themes that he's trying to portray or show in this particular play? Then I thought, well, yes, there's a lot to think about in The Lion and the Jewel, and particularly at the time when it was written. You have to go back to history. At the time when it was written in the 50s, late 50s, you know, just before independence, we had that struggle too as to what do you imbibe or what do you decide is truly your African way of life. Are you going to adopt or just keep back the colonial days, what they did? Or are you going to change? You're going to say, this is our tradition, this is the way we live, this is the way we want our country to go. I mean, so in other words, you know, it's a good time to even for us to think about that. Are we going the right way since independence?
So theater is one vehicle, one can use it as a vehicle to at least explore.
Exactly. There's a lot you can do, and I think many people don't realize that. It's not a matter of just entertainment. Many people think, oh, you go to the theater to be entertained. No, you go to learn. You go to learn a lot of things, behavioral changes, individuals' emotional change or development, and sometimes it reaches you, because maybe you have a problem also. And you see, you go to a play and you see that thing being exposed, expounded on, or new solutions brought out. And you think, well, I could try that. Or it might trick something in your brain. You begin to think about it, you see. Think of child labor or child abuse. If you go to a play where you see that being done on stage, because it's so real, it's a face-to-face communication, nothing can be more real than that. You think, my goodness, you know, I'm not aware that this is what goes on in my country. Can I do something about it? What can I do? How can I change my perspective on those things? So there's so much to talk about, you know, in that. And I think then the language. You see how people express themselves. You see, for example, let's take the characters that you saw on stage. Look at the Barako, you know, and the way he is, very pompous, but he's chief. I mean, can we equate some of our presidents with that kind of attitude? You see, so you begin to think back. You know, he says he wants the good for his village, but on the other hand, his practices or his behavior doesn't really, enamored us to him, because, you know, he's a rapist. He rapes. I mean, when you listen to the dialogue, he puts them in dungeons, you know. So he's a cruel guy. But yet he says, I want to, you know, make this village of ours the best in the world.
While what you do and what you wish, they are not really in tandem.
And there are many of us like that. What we say, we don't do, you know. You see, those are the things that enhance.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then you take Lakunde off. But at school, so many people used to mock them, used to call them Lakunde.
Yes.
The boastfulness.
Yes.
this misunderstood modernity.
That's right.
So to some extent.
That's true. Yeah. It's a caricature. That's true. That is the way Wole Soyinka portrays him. You know, the way he wears it. He has a jacket. He has a whatever. Oh boy, you know. And then he wears it with tennis shoes.
I think Jibu Sadi played the part brilliantly.
He's a great actor. He's great.
Natural.
Yes.
I hope nothing attitude.
Presumptions.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So this was part of your theater for education.
Yes.
It was a fantastic initiative, what one must say, because really theater, drama, must be performed. Really, that's the whole point. So the kind of feel that one gets when you see the performance, completely different, the understanding, the subtleties, all that you get. It's a fantastic initiative. Tell us about this initiative.
Well, it's true. If you read a play, you just don't get anything out of it, to be quite honest with you. Even if you read it in a group. I think it helps a bit if you read it out loud. But it has to be seen on stage. There you get the differences. You get the different categories. and you see it unfold, the story unfolds, and it's a storytelling with the drama and the dialogue and the music, which enhances the whole production or the whole scene, sound effects, you know, all that. You know, like for example, there was a scene where the young girl Sidie falls into the river. Well, you couldn't do that in a film. It's easier in a film, but on stage you have to use sound effects. And people also, they use their imagination, which we can say now is not so, it's hard for us to use our imagination because everything is presented to us on a platter. So you get that. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. And then perhaps even one considers drama more generally. I mean, the first quotation that comes to mind, Shakespeare's "All the World's a Stage." Already we're going into acting now.
On stage, exactly.
We are actors.
We are all actors. We make our entrances and our exits.
Exactly.
Yes,
so
yes.
that means we are steeped in drama.
Exactly. Everyday life, you'd be surprised.
Absolutely. But when we watch it, when we put it on stage and the person watching, what kind of experience does one get, as it were, as you watch these things? I take it it's different from film.
Yes, film is a different thing. That's quite, I think, face-to-face, as I said, the best communication in the world, they've done research, is face-to-face communication. Radio may come second. Television maybe, because many people would not own television in those days anyway. But what we're saying is true. Face-to-face communication is the most effective. Then you can tell who understands your message, if you're delivering it right, who is skeptical, and you can change their minds at the same time. So if we're discussing something now and I see that you're not with me, I may try another way of getting to you. And if I know you well, I might know what I could trade with, you know, so that you will come to my side. You know, so it has that human feeling.
That immediacy, that sort of thing.
There's nothing like it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
and now I wonder, what is the state of theatre in this country now? I understand that you sort of touched on it earlier, back in the days when people were more nationalistic, we were fighting against the colonialists and all of that. Theatre was used, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because not many people were educated, not many people
exactly.
So the access,
yes.
access, wide access. Gradually, what have you seen? Because you've been there for a while
it is true, but I think now we don't even read. You see, how many people would say to you, well, I just read this book, or even the newspapers, how many of us read it? We television, we go to QTV, we go to JRTS, you know, and we don't read. So the words have such beautiful meanings and connotations and, you know, so you miss on that. So you can't really express yourself the way you should express yourself. I'm not talking only about English. Wolof, the same thing. If we read more books in Wolof, you know, that would be great, you see. So language, because language is a communication tool. If you don't have the language, how are you going to express yourself well? So when you do a play and the children are studying the play, they come into contact with different words, the way the language is used, you know, the subtleties, and the feeling that words can create for you. You see, you forget that. You just, you know, for example, let's just take the word hate. If I say it right, if I say I hate you, the actor, immediately the feeling comes through. On the other hand, the contrast, I love you. See, the facial expression, you know, that has to show so people realize what you're saying, you feel it. And in acting, we're always taught, you know, you have to think about it first before you voice it out, before you speak. Think of what the emotion that you have and you bring it out. There's another thing, again, it helps your concentration. You cannot just learn something and go out and just, you know, you have to recall it, you have to use your brains, you have to think about it. And I think it teaches students, well, everybody, if you are an actor too, how you can control your emotions, how you can get it through, and this concentration, because many people within 1 minute they're gone somewhere else with their thoughts, you know. But I think with the theater and the drama, you have to concentrate. Otherwise, if you don't concentrate, you miss your lines, and then you get a lot of prompting. So that's a good training. That's a good training for anybody,
Absolutely.
to be quite honest with you.
And for the audience as well, sort of, it either gives you a mirror of something, or it creates a distance.
Yes.
So you perhaps to engage with the themes being discussed.
True.
Perhaps you can even revise, as it were, a previous thought. So I sort of see literature in that sense to sort of like educate the emotions, the cultivation of sensibility. One sees it along these lines. So one thinks that without literature, really, literature creates your identity in many ways.
Of course. And amazing how we don't really, we're not into it. So we don't promote books. I mean, somebody said, you write these books, you print them, and they're like this in your bedroom or wherever you keep them. So people don't buy books these days, to be quite honest with you. But I mean, they're jewels. They really are. You discover so much in them.
Yes, absolutely. And particularly drama, I've heard that for a long time in this country, whenever Gambia was represented in international festivals, as it were, of culture and arts, we always had drama.
Yes,
as
there was a time, yes,
in Dakar, First Negro.
That's right.
Festival,
yes, truly,
Master
truly.
Brain, was it? By Ramatullah Kinte.
Yes, yes, that's Lady Jawara, yes, she was a pioneer,
People
yes.
like Gabriel Roberts.
Exactly,
and all of these things. So
but
it's a shame really with that reach.
It was that rich, but it's died down now, you know. I think it will come. I think it's just a phase. I think soon, very soon, you know, particularly if it is introduced in the schools. That was how I got my drama, from school. I was 3 years old, I was acting. 6, 9. By 9 years, I was playing a leading role. You see, from school. So, and I've maintained that right along. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
And you've brought us to our next theme
Yeah.
about your work. And even I am not an actor, but at school, Albion School, we were part of
Was
plays.
part of it. And
part
really,
of
you
it.
have. But let's say this. I know that during prize giving, in many schools, the children act out. But it's not this. It's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. Please, don't get me wrong. But I think if it was maintained right through the school, you had, you know, children from stories making little plays about issues. They could be very creative. You see, and that's what you want. But if they don't have it in schools, they cannot have it at home. Unless, of course, you have somebody there who is crazy, who would say, like they said, when I was a little girl, I started school at about 3. When I got home, I dramatized what we did at school. I would get them all to sit down, and then I would be the teacher, and I would teach them what I was taught at school. So you get some children like that. But I think if it was introduced in the schools, we would go along with the music, the African drumming, you know, the kora. If we had all those, I mean, we're different future for them, different future.
Absolutely. And from your generation, as you said, you all started early. I even know that you acted in Rumpelstiltskins. Tell us about that one, that German fairy tales.
But that was all. We didn't have our own. That was a long, long time ago. Too long for me to remember.
That was it.
But I tell you what I do remember after. That was a great play, you know. And but the fellow is now dead. He played Rumpelstiltskin, and he fell in love with me. I don't know how. I think we were 9 or so, or 8 or 9. He fell in love with me, and he wrote this long letter about how much he loved me. Of course, he copied it from somewhere. But it was great, and there was a friendship that developed among all of us, you know, who took part, you know, in that play. Yeah.
So with you got the bug early.
I got the bug early, and my principal said that she knew I was going to be a good actress, because there's a scene, I remember it now, but I don't remember my reaction to it. She said there was a scene where the baby that the princess had, the Rumpelstiltskin had to take, that was a promise, that when she has his first child, he would take the baby from them. And she said, so they had a little pram, and the baby was there. And Rumpelstiltskin came and said, you know, because we turned the straw into gold, so you got to marry the prince, I want your baby. She said there were tears in my eyes because I didn't want him to take the child away. You see. So even from then, emotionally, I was all involved in the story, and it became real to me. This is how good actor. I don't say I'm a good actress, but I'm just saying. But this is how good actresses improve and become big stars.
That's it. So at what point did you decide that theater was going to be your career? Because then it was an amateur stuff, school, nice fun, but at some point the thinking got serious.
Well, that's a difficult question for me. That is a difficult question for me. Because I realized, you know, that theater, I would not have ever made it if I had gone into theater. This is the truth. Because even then in England, you know, you're black, and, you know, in those days, why would you become a star, you know? Although now it's possible, but then it wasn't possible.
Yes, and you lived in Kent, you did your
yes,
degree
in Kent, in Sidcup, Kent, if, you know, well, we won't go into that. But, you know, the fact is, as you said, I think one good thing they did in that school was they taught you to be a teacher as well. So that was excellent. So you could teach drama if you were not an actress, you didn't go into films and all that. Then the other thing that was to my benefit was that they taught radio. See? And I excelled in that. I thought, well, great. So I went into radio. In fact, when I left here and went to Sierra Leone, I was in radio broadcasting, and I went to television. And the same thing in Kenya. But wherever I have been, I have done drama. I've always done it as a, you know, as a pastime or something I'm interested in, and got, you know. In fact, the first play I did in Sierra Leone was a British play, of course. And I said to they were all friends of mine, let's do a play. And you buy your costume after the play, whatever proceeds we have, I can pay you for your costume. And this was how it was great fun, great fun.
Absolutely. And not just in Sierra Leone, I also seen somewhere that I'm packing meter boys.
Yes, that's right. I did that in Kenya from real story. I don't. Where did you read all this from? I take my hat off to you. You're a good researcher. Well, you know, this was the year of the child, and I had this group, of course. We call ourselves Tamaduni players, cultural players. And I thought, well, we have to do something about the child. Because you see, for me, I've always looked at theater as a form of education. You know, you educate people through theater. So I thought, well, they don't know about these boys. And they're you know, often in rags, and they look after your cars, and if you give them something, they're pleased. Sometimes they do vandalize your car, you know. But they were also under the care of a reverend, a father, a Catholic father, and he looked after them. So they were in a group. So I decided, well, let me do a research on them, and then do this story, and then do a play, and I spoke to them about how they came to be into the city, and the stories were heartbreaking. Often they couldn't find food, you know, and their mothers didn't have money, or their father would leave and say he's going to find work in Nairobi and never go back, you know. So they would decide to come back to Nairobi to look for him. And of course, when they came, they had nowhere to stay, so they owned a car. Some of them would be sniffing the petrol and getting drunk on that, you know. But they were very talented. Once you can find that talent, and they became musicians. In fact, during the play, they provided the music. You see, so it's interesting. You know, it is very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from that, you can get even people to start changing attitudes,
or
even change policies, and government trying to change policy.
About theater. You know a lot about theater. But it's true. You can't change people's attitude when they see the reality of it, because when you just talk about it, it's nothing. But when you portray this and it's stark, it's the real thing, then you get to think about it. My God, that was something. You know, when I saw, the first time I saw it, it was a film on AIDS and how one got it, then I realized what that was all about. I'm sure just talking about it would not have really, you know, reached home, as they would say. But I'm actually seeing it and listening to somebody dying of AIDS and how they talked about it. You know, really, I was riveted. And you do learn a lot of things from plays, you know, if they're well written about, you know, and using the right vocabulary, the right setting, and you just go, it's like you are in Wonderland. It transports you from this, your real world, into another world of reality. See, so this is why I find this fascinating.
Yes. Absolutely. The truthful lie.
Yeah.
So somebody was called
The
it.
truthful lie.
So now we come to your plays.
Yes.
Which one was your first? I wonder.
Do I remember?
Yeah. I mean, okay, let's now.
here.
When you
Okay.
came back, when you returned, I think.
When I returned, you know, something will happen that sparks it off you, and then you decide, you know, I've got to write about it. All right. So I was traveling. I can't even remember where I was going, but I was in Brussels, and I was traveling maybe to the States. I don't remember quite where I was going, but I know that I had to transit in Brussels. And as I stood there, this lady came. She came to me. She was dressed in, you know, the Gambian clothes. And she said to me, where is the sign? What time is this plane leaving? And she called the place in Spain. And she had little children with her. You know, they were dressed in, you know, some in suits. You know, you could see they were not dressed properly, you know. But it dawned on me then, she couldn't read. And she was living in a place, Catalina, I think Catalina, is that the right place in Spain? And
Catalonia, is it
I think so, I'm not, yes.
Okay,
But anyway,
right,
it was it's a place in Spain
Yes.
where apparently lots of Gambians live. That maybe she just saw me, she saw the face look Gambian, she thought, you know, let me ask her, because there were other black people around she could have asked. But she came to me specially and she asked. And I looked at her and I looked at the children. And I thought, you see, this one must have got married when she was a little girl. Couldn't even read and write, you see. And then I asked myself, you know, why are they going to Spain? Of course, they're looking for a better life, you see. And then I began to research life in Spain for Gambians or Africans there. And of course, they are all farmers working in the farm, and they all live together, very much like if you are in New York sometimes, you know, in little apartments. And often they want their own people to get married to, because of course sometimes the whites may not want them as husbands. And anyway, you cannot do that in Spain. You can't marry a 12-year-old girl. You will be locked up for sure. So that was what the story was about. And I thought, you know, I have to write something about this, you know. So I called it The Hand of Fate. Now, why did I give it that title? Because I think sometimes in life, the situation that we are in, we believe it's fate. That is how it should be. And so we do nothing to change it. You see, that was why I called it The Hand of Fate. You know, are we going to say because we're in certain situations or conditions, so you were not born rich or you were born poor, are you going to settle for that all your life? Are you going to say it's fate? Or are you going to do something about it?
Fatalism in people's thinking.
That's how they say. That's how it is. That's what we've been doing all our lives. You know, these young girls, and of course they say all these human rights abuses for girls is because of poverty. They say that's the underlying cause. Because we are so poor. Because if the country was not that, if we were not poor, if we had enough resources for everybody to benefit, then they wouldn't go abroad anyway. Back way is the same thing. they wouldn't go. So what are we doing about those things?
So this is where we need sort of dramatists
to stimulate you to think. Yes, think about why are we doing it? Makes you think.
It makes people.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be so disturbing you will not sleep because you'll be thinking about it all the time. Why are they doing this? Human rights for women too. Women, I mean, somebody was saying they would beat some women up to pulp, more or less. Why? What is the cause? Is it his frustration? What is it about it? About some men who would do that? So, I mean, a play would go deeper into it to find out the issues, the reasons why.
Yes. And what were the ultimate inheritance? What was that? Was it 2001?
The ultimate was women's rights. You have been doing your homework. I'm impressed. Yes, the ultimate inheritance. Again, the same thing. It was an issue of women's owning property, and when it was easier for men, well, that was the norm for the men to inherit, and the women did not. So we have a young lady who decides, no, sorry, I want my own piece of land, and that brought the house down.
So afterwards, Abunjang.
Yes.
Man, the inspiration. Where? How did it put it all together to build this wonderful structure here, with its distinctive, wonderful dome and columns?
It's a long story. That. So I had a almost perfect husband. It was really a delight, to be with. And but as soon as I got to the Gambia, anyway, I had the urge to start doing theater. I have to laugh at myself many a time because I thought I was going to go into horticulture. I love plants and stuff. But then I found people would come and say, Janet, how much are you saying this? And I would say $10. But give me no. Just a little, I go plant them, I say, oh my God, So I thought, well, Janet, you're not going to make anything out of this.
Yeah.
Just do the agriculture in your own house, plant your trees and stuff like that. So now, and then I wanted to say thank you really to the principal who encouraged me to do drama. And so I thought I would do a play to raise funds. So I was given the opportunity to work with Gambia high school students. And I realized, my goodness, there is a lot of talent here. If you see those kids, And I thought, Janet, well, you can't stop. You have to, you have to go on. They were magnificent, and I did there were poems by Okot Bitekis, it now passed. He was a very good poet, and he wrote about it's the same thing about a young man coming back and rejecting the culture, and he wants a modern wife, a sophisticated wife, and the village woman was not his style at all. So she had to go. So, and it was beautifully done. And so then I decided, okay, I'll go on to do plays. And then I found I didn't have a theater. And we used to use Alliance. I used to use Alliance. It was very expensive, and I didn't think we were treated well. I thought, what the hell. And then I used a place like the Fajara Club, too noisy. And I didn't really want to take it to my home because I thought, this is my home. I want to, when I do get home, I want to be by myself, So what do I do next? I said, well, I should get land and build something. First, I thought I'd just build a rehearsal room, just somewhere we could go. So you know how long it took me to get the land? Guess.
No, say, years.
5 years just to get the land. 5 years. So I got the land. So then now, of course, I'd been imagining what the theater would be like, And I have this friend who said to me, you should go to, so I forget, I think it's Carton. And she said, you should go there because they're doing a lot of work with blocks, with bricks, earth bricks. So I thought, oh, Lord, earth bricks, it will be falling down in no time. That was what I thought. But when I went there and I saw the design, and then of course they were using, they were building like this domed shape, which is very African. And I thought, you know, that's the kind of theater I want. You see, so we began, we got an architect, he was from Britain, very lovely young man. And it was Sandeli, he was at Sandeli, and we planned it together. And this is the result. But you know what, again, I think I'm a fighter because I just kept on going. Many people had said to me, you know, the Spanish government, you know, will help you out. They're giving, you know, funds for all sorts of things, you'll get it. I didn't succeed. But I tell you, Gambians are good people. I got friends who supported me, you know, through, if I did fundraising shows, they did. I can remember somebody like Lenny Peters, when he heard, the late Lenny Peters, when he heard I was doing, gave me a big check. I almost dropped dead. I was so surprised, you know. There were some people who had, for example, I think of poetry, some poetry readings that they did, you know, and the funds were given to me for the theater. I wish I'd written all these down because I'm sure there are names I should call. Auntie Florence, for example, Mahoney, whenever she comes to the theater, she will give me a check, you know, towards the theater. So this was how, eventually though, I got a nice, good check from UNDP through the program, the Youth Employment Program. So that was a great help. I was able to get the windows because after and what people think when they are building a house, you think just do the structure. What about the windows, the doors,
Absolutely,
the
yes,
tiles?
absolutely.
Oh, I learned a lot then, you know.
So with the theater, you had a group, a troupe, as it
Yes,
were.
I had
but
the
given
troupe.
that there's no drama school here, did you have to train them to act?
Of course, of course. I got a lovely, nice grant from UNESCO. But then I thought, I'm not going to them again because you have to account for every single cent. But no, it was welcome. It was a great help. So they gave me the money so I could train them. So I trained 12 young people for a start. And in fact, the first play we did when the theater was open was called Chains of Inspiration.
Yes, this was 2011. I
Yeah.
read a Chairman Omar Barry review.
Review, yes. Chains of Inspiration, yeah,
Yes,
because it shows it's not everything that is negative. You know, you can be inspired sometimes through negative vibes or negative action. You can improve, you can rise out of the ashes, so to speak, like Phoenix. You can, yeah.
Yes. And the theater goers, that's something else. How is the market like? You have many people who...
Well, yes
What is
and
it
no.
now?
I think
Right.
we do. I think we have not reached the right market yet. I think we had thought, I had thought, for example, that it would be a great thing if when the tourist season, we could have things going on. But it doesn't work that way. Another person that's been very encouraging and helpful is staff construction, staff holders, you know. He has a lot. He's a superb guy. He's a very positive guy. And whenever you have ideas, he's someone you can talk to because he really is somebody that you can relate with because he's progressive. He goes on. So so that's one thing. Now, if the tourists, I hope things change. That's all I can say. I hope things change. But even when we do shows for tourists, particularly we say, okay, this is the time they're coming, it will be good to have them. The hotels will not allow them to move out. You see, and really, sometimes people will say, well, we can't afford, you can't afford the cost of the ticket. But let me tell you, I never make any profit from any shows. It is very expensive to do a production. I'm telling you, it's not 2,000.
Oh, yes.
It's not
Absolutely.
3,000.
Yeah. And that is why some people, I think, the distinction is often made between the difference between drama and theater. drama is the acting and dialogue
That's
and all
right.
of that, but
Yes.
theater, the set,
The
the
setting.
production, the setting.
You have to, the
absolutely
lighting,
expensive.
the equipment, you know. Then the printing of the paper, the programs. It demands a lot.
Absolutely.
It's an expensive item.
Absolutely. So, and it even affects the theatre goers a bit. In Britain, they tend to see these things as a kind of middle class pastime. And here you don't see. I'm not sure whether perhaps we don't have the critical mass of middle class people to support this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that is really a challenge.
I think Gambians like anything that is free, F-R-E-E. But then I think we have to think of the people who work. You see, this is it. I mean, even the actors, you know, how much can you give them after they've spent 6 weeks? Well, it's not so intense the first 3 or 4 weeks. The last 2 weeks are the most crucial, and the more times they have to come to a rehearsal. But then what do they take home? What do you give them? You can't give them 500. You know? So they should think of that. It's a means of making money. It's a means of earning something. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're coming towards the end now. What next? What's lined up? How long would the Theatre for Education be on? Any other initiatives in the pipeline?
Well, let me say this, that I don't think I'll stop for one thing. I'm not going to stop. But I think my focus should be more on the children, on the school children. I think so. Because once you introduce them to theatre, just like I was introduced at an early age, I think then it sticks. And then they have more respect for it and see it more as an art form. It is an art form. And if the schools, if we could encourage music, you know, and drama, poetry, dance, that would be something very useful for us and will push us further. Because if you look at all the artists abroad, I know we have some wonderful artists. I'm not running anybody down, but I think we should go to the schools now for the next generation, because otherwise all these things will die, and that will be a great shame. It will be a great shame. So I'm going to continue with the theatre in education. And I will look again at the next play that is possible to do, and I will do that and encourage the schools to come. And some schools, I'm telling you, some schools were very, very enthusiastic, and I think I should name them Nusrat. Oh my goodness. I think I think over 300 students came just from that one school. You see, there was another school, I'm not going to call names because they'll think Auntie Janet is spoiling our name, but there was a school when I called and asked if the students were doing Lion and the Jewel, were sitting on the exam, and could they come? They said, yes. So how many do you have? Said 300. I said, wow, wonderful. You know how nobody came in the end.
And it was all free, really.
It was all free, but I think the funniest part was when I said it was free, and one of the teachers said, is the transport free also? How cheap can you be? So it's a matter, it's like, you know, it's like you do everything, it's like an invalid. You do everything for them. And you know, nothing in. I was just flabbergasted. Of course, I just burst out laughing. I said, "This is too much.
You, of course,
much
people,
too
of course,
much."
These are the sort of things that you dramatize. On
Yes,
stage
exactly.
to help change habits, as it were.
That's right. But I think again, give it time. I think it will grow, and we'll see what the results are. I think I'm very anxious to see what the results will be from their examination. But this is not the first time we're doing it, you know. I also did Women of Owu. That's a Nigerian play also. There were others that I had done before, but this one was on a larger scale, you know, and getting the students to come, you know, regularly. So I hope it continues.
Absolutely.
I hope so.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've come to the end now. Thank you very much. With this Ibonjang Theatre, I think that's a good start. Hopefully the future, you know, you can leave a long-lasting legacy of the revival of theatre in this country.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
And thank you very much, viewers, for joining us on the Viewpoint today at the Ebanjang Theatre. Until next time, I'm Mahmoud Boj. But don't move just yet. Enjoy our 10-minute bonus segment of the first scene of The Lion and the Jewel, staged at Ebanjang Theatre on the 25th of June 2021. In the scene, the village school teacher Lakunle, played by Jibu Seidi, tries to woo the village beauty Sidi, played by Maria Makuli.
Just to say, the school teacher is full of stories this morning. And if the lesson is over, may I have a pen? No. I've told you to stop carrying notes on your head. But you are as stubborn as an illiterate goat. It's bad for the spine. It will shorten your neck. So that very soon you would have no neck at all. Or do you wish to squash like my people's drawing? Why would that worry me? Haven't you sworn that my looks will not affect your love? Yesterday, dragging your knees in the dust, you said, Sidi, if you were crooked or fat and your skin scaly like... Stop. I only repeat what you said. Yes, but must you throw away your neck on that account? Sidi, it is unwomanly. Only spiders carry those away. Well, it is my name, not your spider. And now look at that. Look, who was it talk of shame just now? How many times must I tell you this? That a grown-up girl must cover up her shoulder. I can see quite a good portion of it. And so I can imagine every man, elders, good for nothing shameless men, casting their lustful eyes where they have no business. Are you at that again? Why? I've got the phone so high and so tight, I can barely breathe. All because you keep at me so much. I have to leave my arms so I can use them, or don't you know that? You could wear something. Most modest women do, but you don't. No. You must run around naked in the street. Does it not worry you? The bad names, the lyric jokes, tongue-licking noise which girls uncovered like you threw after them. This is too much. Is it you, Lakunle, telling me how I made myself come on top when the whole world knows of the madman of Olojale who calls himself a teacher? Is it Sidi who makes men choke in their cups, or you with your big loud words and no meaning? You and your ragged books, dragging your feet in every threshold and rushing them out again as crosses greet you instead of welcome. Is it Sidi they call a fool, or even children, or you with your fine airs and little sense? For that, what is a jewel to pigs? If now I am misunderstood by you and your race of savages, I rise above thorns and remain unruffled. Or you make me want to pulp your brain. A natural feeling arising out of envy. For as a woman, you have a smaller brain than mine. Again, I'd like to know, just what gives you these thoughts of manly conceit? No, I have fallen for that trick before. You can no longer draw me into argument with ghosts above your head. Give me the pill now. And if you ever dare to stop me in the streets again, LCD, give it or I'll... Don't be angry. I didn't mean you in particular. And anyway, it isn't what I say. The scientists have proven. It's in my books. Women have smaller brains than men. That is why they're on the weaker sex. Weaker sex? Is it the weaker breed who pounds the yam or bears the whole day to plant the millet? his own home. Wise men have been called mad, before me and after. Many more shall be so abused. But to answer to you, what I boast, the nation is not even entirely of my knowledge. Now what I boast is known in Lagos, that city of magic. In Miami, where some women bathe in gold. Even in smaller towns, less than 12 miles from here.
Then go there. Go to these places where women will understand you if you told them of your plans with which you oppress me today. Do you not know what name they give you here? Have you lost shame completely that just passed you over?
No, I've told you no. Shame belongs only to the ignorant.
Well, I am going. Shall I take the favor?
No, see. Not until you swear to marry me. A man must prepare to fight alone. But if he has a woman to stand by him, a woman who can understand, like you.
I do?
My love will open your mind, like the chestnut leaf in the morning, when the sun first touches it.
If you start that, I'll run away. I had enough of that nonsense yesterday.
Nonsense. Nonsense. Do you hear? Does anyone hear? Can the stones bear to listen to this? Do you call it nonsense? That I pour the waters of my soul to wash your feet?
You did what?
Wasted. Wasted. See, my heart goes to the flowers of my love. But you and the death of this village trample over it with the feet of ignorance.
If the snail finds splinters in his shell, he changes house. Why do you say?
Faith. Because I have faith. See, swear to me your own undying love, and I will scorn the gibes of this bushman who knows no better. Swear, see. Swear you will marry me, and I will stand against earth, heaven, and the nine hells.
There you go again. One little thing and you must cheer up like a cockatoo. You talk and deafen me with words which always sound the same and make no meaning. I told you, and I say it again. I shall marry you today, next week, or anything you need. But my bride price must first be paid. Now you turn away. But let me tell you, I must have the full bride price. Will you make me a laughing stock? Well, do as you please. But Sidi will not make herself a cheap bowl for the village streets.
On my head, let fall their scorn.
They'll say I was no virgin, that I was forced to marry you without a price.
Establish custom. Barbaric, outdated, humiliated, excommunicated, redundant, remarkable, retrogressive, unpalatable.
Is the bag empty? Why did you stop?
I only own the shorter companion dictionary. I have ordered for the longer one. Anyway,
Just pay the price.
an ignoble custom. Infamous, ignominious, shaming our heritage before the world. See, I do not seek a wife to fetch and carry, to cook and destroy, to bring forth